Hey everyone, it's Alan with Earthglow. Welcome back to another new video. In today's video, we're actually going to be making some hot apple pie candles. Now, these are actually a first for me, these vessels I should say. They utilize both cement awl and hydrostone. So if you've watched any of my concrete candle videos, you probably will know that I've used both of these two mediums individually a lot, but I never actually blended them together. Or swirled them together. I guess would be more accurate. I'm actually very sad because I didn't film the making of these vessels themselves, but how this happened was I started off with making like a batch of hydrostone candles, and I had a little tiny bit of extra batter. And then at the same time, I was also making a batch of my red vessels, which are normally for our farmhouse apple candles. And so I had like both of the two colors individually, and I just got this idea that what would happen if I just blended them together. And so I made just a swirled vessel, and it came out really good. So I made like a dozen of them, and then I let those cure, for a few weeks, and made several test candles. You can see my third tester that's burning kind of near the back. And it just worked really well. So yeah, you can blend cement awl and hydrostone. Well, I have and have had success at it. Always do it with your own testing and make sure it meets your expectations. But what's cool about blending these two mediums is that you get to utilize the best of both. And what I mean by that is cement awl will typically work better with oxide pigments. Now, oxide pigments are most of the things that you'll get from direct colors and glob marble. They are going to be like iron oxides, and oftentimes they'll be more of the bold colors. They'll oftentimes be more affordable, and they will oftentimes not work as well with hydrostone. The reason for that is hydrostone is prone to efflorescence. And oxides oftentimes also are prone to efflorescence when they're used with hydrostone. So even though the two casting materials do have a lot of similarities, there are a number of differences. Hydrostone is a gypsum. It's a very, very high PSI gypsum, which means that it would take a lot of pressure to break it. It's extremely stable. Gypsum, for reference, is what a lot of like structures are made of, like buildings and things. It's utilized a lot in construction. Cement awl is actually a mixture of a number of different things. It has a small amount of basically aggregates as well as Portland cement. There's some silica, and I don't have the whole composition memorized, but it's not primarily gypsum like hydrostone. So anyways, sorry, the garbage truck's like going past my house right now. You hear a bunch of sounds. But anyways, it's kind of cool because you can get the best of both. With oxides, hydrostone typically will work better with lighter colors, or you can use like rare earth pigments. Like I've gotten some from I think it's called, Earth Pigments or something. I'll put the name on the screen of the company, but they make a lot of great ones for hydrostone. I've also heard of a lot of people using like liquid pigments that you can get on Etsy, for example, with hydrostone. And I haven't tried much of this personally, but I have heard that you can get some great results with them. Now, I don't know if you guys have tried any of these pigments on Etsy, these liquid pigments. But if you have, let me know, because I'm very curious about them. They're kind of pricey, so I haven't really just decided to order them yet because I have so many oxides and other types of pigments that do work pretty well. I also should clarify that you can get oxides to work with hydrostone. They just don't all always work. You kind of have to try them like on a case-by-case basis and see how they go. And hydrostone can just be a pain for efflorescence. It just really is. I've also found with hydrostone, you really have to weigh everything right to the gram, whereas with cement awl, it's a kind of a much easier medium to work with. But one of the main differences, and I'm actually going to be posting a whole video on this, kind of outlining the differences between hydrostone and cement all, and which one's better, which one might be safer, all that kind of stuff. But they just have different... Sorry guys, the garbage truck is literally like down a side street and backing up, and you probably can hear all this. I'm sorry, I'm gonna come back in a little bit. So we are using Hot Apple Pie by Candle Science for the fragrance. I'll have this whole recipe in my Patreon as well, but obviously the video will go over the whole process of making the candles. I do have the formula for the concrete vessels as well in my Patreon. I'll post it. It uses 2 different colors by Direct Colors actually. One of them is, I believe it's, oh, I shouldn't try to quote the numbers offhand because I don't remember, but I'll have it in my Allen's vault. Anyways, it's really cool because if you try to use that red pigment just by itself in the hydrostone, you would get too much efflorescence. And I know that because I've done it. It just doesn't work. But if you use that with the cement all, and you use the hydrostone for the kind of more tan color, it works really well. And sometimes you do get a little bit of efflorescence, but it really goes with the look of this vessel, I think. So this fragrance actually requires several wick sizes up from what I normally use. It's really strange, and I'm going to actually post a video on this as well. A lot of times baking fragrances will use a wick size that's like at least, well, it depends on the fragrance, but oftentimes it can be like a size or more up from what you're used to. Not always though. You definitely have to test each and every oil. But sometimes baking fragrances can be more viscous, and by that I just mean kind of thick, syrupy, almost like honey. Garbage truck's going by again. Come on, dude, this is enough. I'm trying to film over here. Anyways, yeah, so they can just be thicker and take more, basically, cotton, more fuel. Do you guys hear all this crashing? But they just take more to get up the wick. So you need a bigger wick that burns hotter and that's capable of wicking that thicker fragrance oil up, oftentimes. So this wax that I'm using is Seda Serica Coconut Apricot, and I always use CDN wicks with this wax. I think they work really well. Actually, with most viscous natural waxes, I find that CDN wicks work very well. Coconut waxes, soy waxes, cocoa soy blends, they're just a versatile wick, and they stay nice and rigid. Of course, they will have that little bit of a curl. That's just like the self-trimming feature. Almost all flat braided cotton wicks are self-trimming. CD, LX, Premier, well, Premier aren't flat braided, but they're cotton wicks. What else? Eco, I'm trying to think of them all offhand. I know zinc wicks have a zinc core, so that's a different type, but most flat braided wicks have a paper filament, and they are self-trimming, i.e. they have that kind of curl at varying angles, and it can be really annoying, but they work oftentimes really well, especially when you're doing multi-wicking. They can do better. So anyways, yeah, I'm super excited about these candles. I love how each one came out too. Like these vessels, they're getting kind of washed out with this camera footage, but they each came out like a little bit differently, and that always happens. But I feel like with these, I'll try to put some nice footage at the end so you can see, like without my overshot ring light, how they actually look. I did also do some of the oval triple wicks as well. I'll have this mold linked in my Amazon storefront. It's a very inexpensive mold. It does take a lot of hydrostone or cement all, just because it's a thick mold and the base of it has kind of a thick floor to it. But it's a mold I find that customers just tend to really love. Every time I take it like to markets and that kind of thing, I'll usually sell totally out of that size. I don't know what it is. They go for it much more so than the Modern Craft Labs, like 4-inch short, for example. When I've brought that one, it will usually sell out after the oval triple wicks. I don't know why, but yeah. And then these other ones that I'm using are Modern Craft Labs 3-inch tulip molds. And I use the 3-inch height and 3-inch width. And then the wick stabilization tools that you see come from Norden Candle Supply. Now, I'm not sponsored or affiliated in any way with this brand, but they make some fantastic wick stabilization tools that you should definitely know about. Regardless of what container you're using, you can probably find something that works. And if they don't have it on file, you can literally send them your container and the owner will make a prototype out of your container and she'll keep it on file there, but then she'll give you in return like 15% off or something like that of your purchase and literally make you like a custom wick tool. And then you can get your business name on them too. So it's really cool. I know this sounds like an ad, but I just like to tell you guys stuff that I really like, because if I had known sooner what kind of products are good, I would have, I feel like, gone further faster with this craft. But it's all about having fun and just enjoying the process. So I really like these particular concrete molds, the Modern Craft Labs 3-inch tulip, because I use them for plants, and a lot of our customers do too. They hold like a 2-inch planter really well. If you're a plant collector like me and you've purchased like those little tiny succulents or plants like that in the 2-inch diameter, these will be a nice cash pot for those. Now, I've also used CB2 in these particular containers. It works really well because it has good jar adhesion. Actually, I would say better jar adhesion than Stabilization Coconut Apricot, CB2 that is. And I typically will single wick it in this container. Now, I don't use 6006 as much in these, just because that wax, it doesn't have as good of jar adhesion. It has terrible jar adhesion if I'm really being blunt with you. But it has a lot of other great properties like hot throw that are worth it. Just, it's kind of hard with these concrete vessels because the outside is already so cold. And what happens is when you pour wax, even waxes that normally have good jar adhesion, they will tend to pull away from the concrete a little bit just because the temperature is so cold. And as the wax is solidifying, it kind of pulls away. Now you can see with these, I'm actually just using a popsicle stick, and I use like a belt loop puncher to make the holes in those. I'll link my popsicle sticks in my storefront for you guys. You can actually just check out my Amazon storefront, and I have a whole playlist. I always say playlist, a shopping list in there for concrete candles. So you can click into that and see all the supplies that I use from Amazon if you want like the exact same listings that I'm using in a video. I always talk about the piston funnels too, but they're honestly one of my favorite tools for concrete candles, and really just for any candles. I use them consistently now when I'm pouring. It really has helped me to minimize the amount of spillage. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, leave it a thumbs up. It would mean the world to me. I will be posting a lot more concrete videos as I'm getting healed up from surgery. It probably won't be until like July or August when I'll be able to make more, but I'm very excited for it. So stay tuned. Concrete is definitely not over on this channel. Anyways, I'm sending all of you peace, love, and light, and I'm wishing all of you happy candle making.